Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Inferno. Thanks for spending some time with us today. As usual, I am joined by Bryce Fraser and our not so special guest, regular kind of panelist, Jacob Wallace. How you doing today, guys?
Good.
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. So today we are going to talk about rookies in redraft. Before we get into that, just kind of let you all know where to find all of us. So you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Sully on Twitter. You can also find me in our Discord chat at Sully. And I'm in both our fantasy groups, both the Dynasty and the Redraft on Facebook. Jacob, where can the viewers and the listeners find you, my friend?
Yeah, you can also find me on Facebook, both in the Redraft and Dynasty. And then you can find me in the Discord chat. And then I also write articles, mainly Dynasty. So you can also find me on the website there.
Awesome. And Bryce?
Yes, very similar to Jacob. You can find me on the Facebook page, both the Dynasty and the Redraft page, and then in the Discord. And again, it's free to join the Discord, guys. So find the link in one of the on the Facebook page and join that Discord.
Absolutely. I believe that link is on our website as well at rotoheat.com. So good point calling that out. The Discord chat is it's a great chat group. It's got, you name it, it's in there. So if it's not just fantasy football, it's baseball, it's everything, it's video games, it's movies. There's a ton of fun in there. So get on in that, guys. Like Bryce said, it's free, and I think you'll enjoy it. So if you were watching this live on YouTube or on Facebook, thanks for being here. If you're listening back via podcast on your favorite podcast platform, please like and subscribe. We do appreciate that. And especially on YouTube, subscribe and click that notification bell. We don't want you to miss any of our great content on our YouTube channel. We have player profile videos. We're live streaming 5 nights a week. We're doing our best to bring you what you want. So hit us up in those groups, whether it's Twitter, or Facebook, or Discord. Let us know what you're looking for, and we'll do our best to deliver on that. All right, so before we get into the meat of the episode tonight, we're going to start off with some news and notes. Our first piece of news is the New England Patriots have signed Lamar Miller. And I'm going to go to you, Bryce, because you're kind of our Patriots guru. I'm kind of wondering what you think this means for Sony Michel, James White, and perhaps even Rex Burkhead.
I think like me and most other Patriots fans, we have no clue what this means because who knows what they're doing in their backfield. I'm super high on Sony this year, so it obviously means that his injury is something that the coaching staff and the trainers are definitely worried about. I was reading reports today that his situation's up in the air for if he'll even be ready for week 1, which is not good because I had a bold prediction that he'll lead the league in rushing, which is extremely bold. But overall, I think it's very confusing because you would think even if he was hurt, with having White and Burkhead and then even Damian Harris that a lot of people think are going to get more touches this year, it kind of goes to show, like, what do they think of those guys? If they're going out and signing a veteran guy like Lamar Miller, who has proved to be pretty productive in the amount of touches that he gets. So I think they're just kind of throwing him in there as a just in case Sony's not ready. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get cut before the season starts, though. So
that's fair.
I don't know. It's confusing.
J-Wall, what's your take, brother?
Yeah, I think similar. I don't think Lamar Miller has much of an impact on the running back situation for the Patriots, but I think Damian Harris is a guy who I've been keeping my eye on. And even, I think it was today or yesterday, they were talking about how he's been getting first-team reps since Michel, his status is up in the air. So I would say he's more of a guy to look out for and keep on your radar versus a guy like Lamar Miller.
I think that's a good point. And thank you, Bryce, for bringing up Damian Harris, because I didn't even think about him when I was putting that together. So I kind of like Lamar Miller being Jeremy Hill from a couple of years ago, where the Patriots kind of brought him in camp, and we never really found out because he tore his ACL. I think he's an insurance policy. I do think this is a little scary for Sony Michel. My main concern is if he's not ready for week 1, is he going to end up on the PUP, and are we going to lose him for an extended period of time? I hope not, because I've been kind of bullish with you, Bryce, on him and hoping that he gets some chance because, like, I think my bold prediction was the Patriots are going to lead the NFL in rushing attempts this year, and I thought he'd be a big part of it. So we will see what happens there. And J-Wall, I picked this one for you, my friend. So it's been reported that Alvin Kamara, in addition to ankle and back injuries last year, played through an MCL tear. So how high do you rank him in 2020, knowing that he was broken in almost every conceivable way last year? What do you think?
I know that Bryce does not see him as a top 5 RB, which, you know, so be it. But this guy put up over 1,300 total yards with, I mean, literally half of like the capabilities that he did like in years prior. And so, and especially with, I think, getting Drew Brees back, he's going to do a lot more dump passes than a guy like Teddy Bridgewater, which I'm not saying that he didn't, but I think you're going to get a little bit more with Drew Brees. And so I 100% see him as a top 5 guy. I have him as number 4 behind, you know, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon, and Zeke, but I have him in front of guys like Cook and company. So
cool. Bryce, does this revelation of hidden injury change your mindset on Alvin Kamara?
I think that Alvin Kamara has top 5 talent, but I think that a lot of other running backs do too. And they're in organizations and situations that are going to use them to be in more of a better position to be top 5. So I think Alvin Kamara is an absolute animal. If anything, I think he's top 3 most talented running backs in the NFL. But I just don't like how the Saints implement their running back too. They put in Taysom Hill. So Alvin Kamara gets a lot of opportunities vultured from him, especially when they get in the red zone. It seems like they a lot of times do put in Latavius Murray, especially this last year. But again, that could be obviously due to the injury. I don't have Kamara out of the far out of the top 5. I think he's obviously top 10. That's a no-brainer. But I just think that there's other running backs that I think are going to edge him out like they did this past year, just because they're 3-down backs in their organizations and they play a lot more snaps than Alvin Kamara will with Latavius Murray still there. So. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think the situation with him being injured it changed my opinion a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends top 5. But I don't think he will this year.
I wasn't here last week, but I watched, and I absolutely loved how you guys fought. So I was trying to recreate some animosity, get you going again.
Right. Can't wait to win my bet.
I just updated my redraft rankings. They're on their website at rotoheat.com if you care to take a look. I moved Kamara to 4 ahead of Dalvin Cook at 5. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of where he belongs. I think that you're right. They do deploy kind of a 2-back system at times, and they did bring Latavius in last year, but I didn't watch a ton of Saints games, but the games that I watched, Kamara always got first crack. And if he didn't score, then Lat Murray would come in. And I think that had a little bit to do with his injury. Look at his touchdown totals from the first couple of years, even with Mark Ingram there. So I think there's still potential for him to be a top 5, but we'll leave that one alone. And then a couple of really quick ones. Josh Jacobs came out and said his goal is to catch 60 passes this year. Will he?
I mean, my goal in the NFL for myself next year is also to catch 60 passes, but that's not going to happen.
We're well aware of that.
So, but what I'm saying is,
Will Jacobs.
It's like kind of a similar, like, of course you want to, like, I'm sure he would love to catch 100 passes, but that doesn't mean that's
but he didn't say 100. He said 60.
Yeah.
60 is not outlandish.
I know, but with all the pass catchers that they have, to me, it is a little outlandish, and it's him being like, yeah, I'd love to do this, but the coach are going to do what the coaches are going to do. So
fair.
He's definitely capable. But
yeah. I don't know. It kind of reminds me of, last year Leonard Fournette was wanting to get more involved in the pass game, and he ended up doing that. But like you said, that team has a little bit. I mean, their weapons aren't elite or anything like that, but they're better than the Jaguars situation. So I think with him setting that goal, and John Gruden loves to utilize his running backs. I wouldn't be surprised to see him do it. I think he's a lot of people slept on his talent last year. People didn't think there was this last year's draft class was very exciting, and he exceeded, I think, almost everybody's expectations, and rightfully so put him in the top 10 running backs, at least for this upcoming season in a lot of leagues. So I think he definitely could do it. And if they give him the ball, he's going to. So
cool. I think he could. I'll be honest
Yeah.
with you. I don't even think he's going to get 60 targets, let alone 60 catches.
Exactly.
So I think that's going to impact him the most. But I do agree he has the ability to do so. I just think that it's a bit of a lofty goal.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one, real quick, Frank Reich came out today, I believe it was, and stated that Marlon Mack is still his starting running back, but he is going to ride the hot hand in Indy this year. So my question to both of you is, how long or how deep into the season will Marlon Mack still be the starting running back for the Indianapolis Colts?
go ahead.
Go for it, J-Well.
I'd say definitely no later than week 8, like halfway through. Like, there's no way, in my eyes. But I think more realistically, probably around week 6, just to the fact that, again, there's kind of just like this weird offseason, no preseason games. So I think that those first 4, 5, 6 weeks are just going to be kind of those preseason type games of like really just getting JT into the offense and having him kind of just get used to it before taking over. But I do think it's going to be more like very much of a 1A to 1B running back situation there, probably for a while, if not most of the season until the end. But I just see JT really taking over at least halfway through.
Cool.
Yeah, I think it'd even be sooner than that. I think with him saying, they do this a lot of times when Marlon Mack was productive, but it's like they want more. So they drafted somebody that was there that's going to definitely be giving them more. So you don't want to upset your starting running back by saying, well, this guy's coming in, he's being the starter. He hasn't proved anything yet, but he's there. But he put in, but will ride with the hot hand. I think that just shows that they're almost expecting JT to just be more productive. So with his touches, and when he does, he's going to take over Mac. And I think it's going to be within the first 4 weeks. I think it's going to be kind of almost like 60-40 at first, and then it's just going to – and Jonathan Taylor's just going to do better in that backfield. He's a better pass-catching back than Matt, but not better than Hines. So
Yeah.
they'll have him still sprinkled in the third down. They got a 3-headed backfield back there, but I think Jonathan Taylor's obviously the better athlete, and they didn't draft him that early in the draft to not eventually have him become the starter. So I think he's going to become within the first 4 weeks the starter for the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're all on sort of the same page. I kind of tabled it as about week 8 as well. But I think, the Colts have an incredibly soft schedule to start. I think they have a soft schedule all year. They have a really good offensive line, as we all know. And Max should be fine, but you got to know that he's hearing the footsteps, or if he fumbles or he misses a block or something, like he's got to be playing a little bit nervous. So I think JT, and I won't give away too much on him, I think we'll talk about him later on here, is primed to be that back. And Max also in the last year of his rookie deal. So cool. All right, let's get into this. Let's get into the rookies and redraft. And J-Wall, since you're such a good guest and you're always so willing to come and join us, why don't you kick us off tonight, my man?
All right, so my number one guy for rookies to make an impact is Michael Pittman Jr. I really love his talent previously. I mean, he only had 5 drops in his college career, and he's a guy who's just known to go up and get it. And so that is big, and he was, I guess you can't really rate it, but he was seen as one of the best ball trackers out of his draft class among the wide receivers. And I just think that that's what Indianapolis needs, because they have T.Y., who is a stud. He's just hurt all the time. He's getting older. And so I think he's going to kind of step into that role, and kind of like Mac and JT, I think T.Y. and Pittman will kind of be that 1A, 1B, where they'll really complement each other well and help each other out. But I just see Pittman as, I mean, he's walking into a starting role with a new guy in Phillip Rivers there in Indy. And so I think Phillip Rivers is going to really enjoy him. So
Cool. Bryce, your thoughts on Michael Pittman Jr.?
Yeah, I like so when you're talking about especially wide receivers that are coming in as rookies, you have to look at situation a lot of times more than talent, because they're going against, in college, they're not going against a lot of times very great corners that end up getting drafted. So when they come in, it takes some time for them to be able to adjust. That's why, like, a lot of times when you go with tight ends or wide receivers, it takes them a few years to really come into their own and play at their highest level and hopefully stay at that highest level. And Michael Pittman's getting put in a good situation. He's got a good veteran wide receiver in T.Y. Hilton to learn from. That's obviously nearing his last years. And he's got a veteran quarterback that is better than most in the league. So maybe not better than most in the league, but he's a debatable quarterback. But I like Phillip Rivers. He throws it a lot, and he's a good leader from what I hear. So Michael Pittman Jr. is definitely in line or in a situation where he can immediately make an impact. And for his value at 166 ADP, this is as of yesterday, I believe. He's wide receiver 63. He's right above his teammate Paris Campbell. So I think when we talk about these guys, would you take them in their situation or the position that they're in? And yeah, that's one of the last rounds, if not the last round that he's going to go in. So why not take a chance on a guy that could have like you hope to have like an OBJ rookie year. So I like Michael Pittman Jr. He's in a good situation to be successful. What do you think, Sully?
Yeah. I like him as well. He's got massive hands, and he's good with his hands, like J-Wall alluded to. He catches the football. He's incredibly physical, both in his route running and after the catch. That's going to be huge for Phillip Rivers. That Rivers doesn't have what he used to have, and as our founder Rick Butts likes to call it, throws medicine balls all the time. And he's not really wrong, but Pittman has the ability to fight off and contest the DB to get that pass, and I think that's going to benefit him huge, and Rivers as well. So I like him. He had 101 catches, 1,275 yards, and 11 touchdowns at USC last year. I don't know a ton about the USC program. I don't know if that was a good quarterback or what it was there, but really like his size, and I also like the intangibles. It's kind of an unwritten rule that it's always a benefit to have that family pedigree going for you, and he definitely has that. So I looked him up on the player draft profiler, and they comped him to Dwayne Bowe, which you guys are probably too young to even know who Dwayne Bowe is. But,
Kansas City.
Yeah,
there you go. Bowe had like a 10-year career. He did pretty good. And in 2010, he was a wide receiver 4. He scored 15 touchdowns. So I think Pittman has the ability to be fantasy relevant in his rookie season. I would definitely take him at that ADP. All right, before we move on to the next guy, I've done a poor job as a host. I wanted to let you guys know that we will be answering your questions towards the latter part of the program. So please drop those questions in the Facebook group or on YouTube, and we will do our best to get to as many of those as we can later on. Bryce, I'm going to go to you for your first guy, my friend.
Yeah, this is obviously probably the most talked about player that everyone's excited about for this upcoming season, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. My opinion's changed on him since all the players opting out. Obviously, Damian Williams has opted out, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, before he's even stepped on the football field, his value is peaked. It might be peaked. His ranking through Fantasy Pros to me is pretty ridiculous. He's ranked 11 overall, running back 7, and he's in front of guys like DeAndre Hopkins, Chris Godwin, Kenyon Drake, Joe Mixon. With rookies, there's a lot of hype behind them because everyone loves the unknown when it comes to fantasy football, and people get what's called rookie fever, obviously, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You just get so excited on these rookies, and you expect them to have years like Barkley or Zeke did in their rookie year, or even Gurley. And I just don't think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is that talented. He's in obviously one of the best if not the best situation for a running back to succeed in his rookie year. But to put him above guys that have proven and done it year in and year out, and especially in redraft, that's a huge risk. I wouldn't be caught dead passing up DeAndre Hopkins or even Joe Mixon or even Austin Eckler for a guy like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who hasn't shown me anything. We don't know if he's going to be able to pick up the blocking schemes. We don't even know if he's going to be good. There's plenty of people that bust. So he's going to have an impact this year, but he's highly overrated. Would I take him over some other Sully, I think your rankings had him what did your rankings have him at again? Because I think I liked Yours the best.
I updated it and I threw up in my mouth a little bit and I ranked him at 8th.
Oh, 8th overall running back.
That's
But you
my
didn't have him
updated
over
one.
guys. Did you have him over guys like Hopkins?
No.
No. So, obviously, yeah, his rankings went up a little bit just because of the situation. He's got almost no competition now in Kansas City. So he's walking in probably as the starting running back, and everyone loves how Andy Reid uses him. So he's a guy to get excited about, but don't spend your first round pick on him. So that's kind of my thoughts on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's still my favorite running back in the draft, though, for rookies. So
Cool.
what do you think, J-Wall?
I like him. I would say even pre-draft, I wasn't super high on him. Again, I see his talent. I think he worked really well at LSU, but I definitely am cautious to see how he translate into the NFL. I love Andy Reid, and Andy Reid run offenses as an Eagles fan. But yeah, I think his ADP is. I cannot get behind that. He would be for sure. I could never take him as my RB1.
No.
I just would never. Yeah, I would definitely take. I would say I definitely take him as a low end RB2. But I just personally I couldn't go any higher. Again, he's walking into a great situation. Damian Harris opted out, and again he has no competition. But I know some people like the unknown, but I'm
Not in
not one
redraft.
of those people. Especially in redraft, I think you just have to be really smart with running backs and how you draft your running backs and the research you do and whatnot. And so that's just an area. And he's just a guy who I'm not touching him at his ADP.
Cool. Bryce, sorry, his ADP was 11 overall?
Yeah. That, as a Fantasy Pros, it says
Okay.
as of August 12th. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm totally in line with both of you here. I know I have him ranked at 8th as my running back. I can't remember where I have him overall. I think it's in the back half of the second round. And honestly, I'm not very comfortable with having him there. So there were 214 running backs drafted between 2010 and 2019. 14 of them had an RB1 season. So that's 6.5%. So the odds right away are stacked against him for doing that.
Right.
Huge benefit for playing with Patrick Mahomes with Andy Reid calling your plays. I would not be surprised if he finishes in that 10, 11, 12 range. But in redraft, you cannot screw up your first pick. If you blow one in Dynasty, you can mail it in and you can sell all your assets and you can try to come back. If you punt your first pick in redraft, your season's over. So I'm going to be way safer in that format, and I'm going to, take a DeAndre Hopkins or someone like of that seen do it year in and year out, and I'm going to feel a heck of a lot better when I do that. All right, so we'll move to my guy. My first Dallas Cowboys wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb. Good size. He's 6'2", 189. Really good with the ball after the catch. His best traits are probably his body control and his ball skills. Like he's just lights out with the ball in his hands. Speed is definitely an opportunity for him. He steps into the realm in the Dallas Cowboys offense. I think Cobb was, hang on, I got it here somewhere, 55 catches, 800 and change for yards and 3 touchdowns. I think CeeDee Lamb is light years ahead of Randall Cobb in terms of talent, even as a rookie. I think there's going to be a ton of targets in Dallas. Both Cobb leaving, left over, I think it was close to 100 targets on the table. I kind of like playing around with these draft profilers and their player comps. And they player comped him to DeAndre Hopkins, and he's pretty good. So, Bryce, what's CeeDee's ADP currently?
108, wide receiver 46.
Yeah, I am buying that all day long. J-Wall, what do you think about CeeDee Lamb?
Yeah, I'm buying that too. I think I really enjoy Amari Cooper, but he's just really inconsistent, and that's like one of my pet peeves. And so I think Lamb has that chance to step in and be one of those consistent fantasy contributors, like really week in and week out. And obviously it depends on Dak, a lot of it, but they're so pass heavy that I feel like he's going to make his money, especially at the ADP that he's at. And so, and kind of like what you were saying with the his comparison with D-Hop, I think I know pre-draft I saw that a lot, and I got excited for him because DeAndre Hopkins is my favorite player in the NFL. So I love CeeDee Lamb, and Rob, as you know, I've tried to trade for him in our redraft.
Your trade offers do not tell me that you love CeeDee Lamb at all. Bryce, what's your take on the former Oklahoma or wide receiver?
So CeeDee Lamb, I'm surprised that his rankings aren't out of this world for like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because it seems like that he's a player that if you ask people, they love him. But I like his ADP and I like his wide receiver value. I would take him all day long. He's right below Mike Williams. I'd rather have CeeDee Lamb over Mike Williams, most definitely. But the situation, I just don't know how much I like him in Dallas. I feel like for such a talented receiver, I wish he would have went to a team that he had a path of least resistance of being on the field more often. Because with Randall Cobb leaving and Jason Witten leaving, obviously CeeDee Lamb takes that spot and Blake Jarwin. Well, Blake Jarwin, if you know anything about Blake Jarwin, he's a terrible blocker. So, but when he's on the field, he does well. I think that last year he had that Giants game where he blew up and had like 3 touchdowns or something like that, or at least 2. So it got people kind of excited for when Witten leaves. What can Blake Jarwin bring to the table if he's on the field more often? Because he is a receiving tight end. He's big and he's fast. So my worry for CeeDee Lamb is how often he's going to be on the field and how often he's going to be targeted. Because you think J-Wall, the thing I disagree with is you think CeeDee Lamb's going to be that more consistent receiver out of Dallas. I think it's going to be Michael Gallup. I think he's going to be the guy who doesn't get the number 1 receivers because Amari Cooper is going to get them. And Michael Gallup proved to be extremely valuable last year and exceeded everybody's expectations. And I can see him doing that again. The only way I see CeeDee Lamb really almost breaking out as a rookie would be if Amari Cooper gets hurt, and he has had injury problems in the past, because I don't think Michael Gallup's suited to be the number 1. And if CeeDee Lamb's in that number 2 spot for at least the second option, then I like him way more. So I don't like that he got drafted by Dallas, but I think he's an incredible athlete. And for his ADP value, why not take him there behind guys like Mike Williams and Jared Cook, because you're not drafting a starter at that spot. So the worst case scenario is he's a bench player your whole season. If not, he's a good starter for you that you picked up way late.
Good points. Awesome. Bryce, let's go back to you for your second guy.
Alrighty, so I picked all running backs for my guys, but when I go with redraft, there's not many positions I like to look at besides the running back position. And with all these guys, nobody had the hype where wherever this guy goes, he's going to be number 1, kind of like how I talked about with Barkley and Zeke. They had that who's going to get him, it doesn't matter, they're going to get picked number 1, right? Barkley got drafted by the Giants and instantly became still number 1 unanimously across all formats. And this next guy is Cam Akers. He's going to the Rams, the Los Angeles Rams, right? And obviously Todd Gurley's gone, went to the Atlanta Falcons. I'm sorry, Sully, I had to do it. Cam Akers has the path of least resistance, but obviously there's a lot with, especially not having the preseason. People are probably worried, is he going to start? So his ADP is kind of high for me. It's at 75. Without being 100% sure that he's named the starter, I'm probably not going to buy him at that position. That's in the beginning of the 7th round or end of the 6th.
Yeah, right at the back of 6.
Right, for 12 team leagues. So yeah. You're usually still taking starters at that point. You're taking starters at that point in your draft, and with a rookie that's not guaranteed to start, I'm probably not taking him for his ADP, but it's a guy I'm still excited about, because then if he gets named the starter, it might change my mind, because most people know that he was on a terrible his offensive line was horrible at Florida State, but he still put up good numbers. So I think the talent is there, and it might be a guy that surprises a lot of people if he gets put in the right situation, or if he gets the start. But a lot of people are also worried about that line that he's with. So Cam Akers is a guy I think that you can get excited about, but still too high for his AD, or his ADP is still too high. So what do you think, Sully?
I like Cam Akers a lot, and
Mhm.
I kind of agree with everything that you said. He's got good size. He's 5'11", 212, 15 pounds. He's crazy athletic. He's powerful, and yeah, like you alluded to, his offensive line at Florida State was absolute trash last year. He still averaged 5 yards a carry, went over 1,100 yards, and I think he scored like 14 touchdowns. So the Rams, their offensive line isn't the greatest, so it's like he had, on the job training to go to Los Angeles. But a little bit of chatter coming out of LA, and it could be coach speak. There's a lot of it this time of year, with Sean McVay talking about wanting to use all of his running backs, how he learned from Kyle Shanahan a year ago. I'm not sure I buy into that. I know Hard Knocks started up last night. I did not see it yet. Maybe we'll get a little bit of a sneak peek behind the curtain on how they use the guys there. But I'm with you. At the back of the 6th round, it's a little early for me. It's a player I really like. It's a player in Dynasty that I have shares of and I want more of. But in redraft, again, I'm going to play it a little bit safer, especially with this so weird of an offseason, no preseason, lack of, no OTAs, all that fun stuff. So I'm going to pass at that ADP as well. J-Wall.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm going to pass. He has talent. I've just never been super high on him. But obviously, in college, he definitely impressed with his vision. The repeated point that he played behind a terrible O-line, but he also averaged 3.91 yards after contact, and then he also had 82 missed tackles, or forced 82 missed tackles. And so, he definitely had. He's definitely talented, and kind of like what you said, kind of set him up for LA. But the comparisons that I have for him are like more of like a Latavius Murray, and so a solid running back for a few years, but then like a really good backup. So that's personally how I see him.
Cool. Those are great stats, by the way. I love it. I'm going to go next with my guy. My second guy is J.K. Dobbins. His ADP is at 98, so he's like mid-9th round. Another guy with good size, 5'10", 217 pounds. Really good balance, especially after contact. And in the film that I watched, he seemed to have excellent vision. So I really like that for him as well. He's another one of these running backs, to Bryce's point earlier, where he doesn't have that job coming out of college and right into the pros. So he's going to have a little bit of a clogged backfield to play in with Ingram and Gus the Bus and maybe even Justice Hill. So we'll have to see how they utilize those guys there. So with him being probably one of those guys, similar to how we talked about Jonathan Taylor in the news and notes portion, is I see him sort of easing himself into that offense and slowly taking over being the number one running back on his own team. So I don't know if I want to take a guy that early. 9th round's getting close to when I'm going to start taking a flyer on these rookies, but at the same time, he's a guy that might be giving me a half a season. So Dobbins to me is more a guy that I'm going to try to trade for in weeks 4, 5, and 6, hoping that he takes off towards the end than I am drafting him. What do you think, Jay?
Well, I know I was skeptical about Dobbins as an Ohio State fan, and just really nervous at how his game would translate into the pros. But I just think the more research you do, the more you look at his situation, the more you definitely fall in love with him. I know in college he averaged 6.2 yards per carry, and in the last 3 seasons, he found the end zone 43 times. So he's a guy who's like gonna find the end zone, and I think that part of him will translate also into the NFL, which you love as a fantasy owner. And I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that he's a guy who I really feel like could be kind of a guy who leads you to a championship, because he's gonna be a second half of the year guy. Like he's not gonna give you the points that you want at the beginning of the year, but you need to have guys who can get you the record you need, because after that, I think that second half of the season, he really starts to emerge. And obviously that 1A to 1B with Ingram, because I love Ingram. I think he's a stud even at his age, but I think Ingram's going to really shepherd him in and just kind of let him loose too, because I know Ingram's a great teammate and he's really competitive, but he also knows his role.
Right. As a fellow Ohio State fan, I don't think you could really be more happy for the situation J.K. Dobbins got drafted into. He's going into another offense that runs the option. So he's in a situation where he's going to be comfortable. He's he's being handed down. He's going to eventually take over. I think that's what everyone's hoping happens. And I like him because right there at ADP 98, that's when you're starting to draft your bench players. And that one bench player that could possibly become like an elite, have the ability to become an elite starter is kind of what you look for when you're drafting like your first bench player. It's like your first, you're throwing that coin in the wishbone and hoping this guy is the one that breaks out this year. So I think J.K. Dobbins' ADP is almost perfect. I think some of them were too high, some were too low, but his is like just right, like Goldilocks' porridge.
I'm in. You just sold me. I'm taking him.
I love him right there. So he's in a great situation to take over. Don't draft him as your starter, but for his ADP right there at 98, you're drafting your first bench players. I think those are kind of the guys you want to go with. And a lot of times rookies are. They want to be some of your first bench players, and you hope they blow up and become what everyone hopes they do. So who's next?
Cool. I don't know.
I think I am.
I've
So
lost
my
control
second guy.
here.
Yeah.
You want to go to your second guy? Awesome.
Yeah,
Bring
the
it.
one who I stole from you, Rob. It's
Yeah. Let's do
Justin
this.
Jefferson, your boy from Minnesota, and I, as an Eagles fan, it broke my heart when they took Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. Reagor's not a bad option by any means, but I fell in love with Justin Jefferson, the player he is. I mean, he's a versatile guy who plays the slot, but he can also play outside. And he's a big dude. He's 6'3", and he's good for the red zone. And he's also, a deep threat at times too. And the comparisons that he's gotten is more of like a Devontae Adams and Juju. I'm not saying he's going to be that in his rookie year. There's almost not a chance. But he has that kind of talent, I think, where he can become that. And so I think he's going to have success in his rookie season. And he also caught 82.8% of his targets and tied for the most receptions in the nation with 111. So to me, it's like there's nothing not to like about this guy who's stepping into a situation where he's going to be a starter, and I think he's going to ball out.
Cool. Well, I'm a Vikings guy, and I was absolutely going to have Justin Jefferson on my list. His ADP at 134th is just begging me to draft him. Like you said, 6'3", 192, monster in the slot, great reception percentage last year in LSU. A lot of that speaks to the offense he was in and the quarterback throwing him the football. But I think it's really similar going into Minnesota. He leaves a college program that had a very accurate quarterback, and he's going to a professional organization that has a very accurate quarterback. His volume is probably the only thing that scares me a little bit. I don't know how much the Vikings are going to go to the air or how often when they do, they're going to target him. I still think that Adam Thielen is definitely going to lead the way in targets in that offense. And Jefferson struggles a little bit, gaining separation at times. So if he can get the ball in his hands and a kind of a quick hitter off the line of scrimmage, he's good to go. I don't know if he's going to have that opportunity in the pros with guys playing press on him as much. So I do really like him. I'm cautiously optimistic as a Vikings fan. I've seen the Laquan Treadwells and the Cordell Pattersons of the world. There's a ton of wide receivers that we've been jazzed about coming out of college that we forget about really quickly. So hoping that's not Justin Jefferson, absolutely will draft him. And good addition there, my friend. Bryce, what do you think?
Yeah, there's not much else I can say about it. I think when you talk about some of these wide receivers, a lot of them got drafted in good situations. And Justin Jefferson's one of them. They lost Diggs. They brought him in. They've got a good veteran quarterback, a good route running and good hands wide receiver in Thielen, who worked his way all the way from being an undrafted free agent, I believe, to a great starter in the league. So I think he's in a good situation. He's in a high-powered offense where a lot of focus won't be on him. So he might sneak in and be a sneaky asset to your fantasy team. He's kind of in that pack of other rookies. Jalen Reagor is not much ranked above him at ADP. Henry Ruggs is a little bit below him, so he's kind of right there in the middle of the wide receiver pack, and I think that's a good value for him at wide receiver 52, and then his ADP value of 134.
Cool. All right. You want me to go, Bryce? Or you want to go?
You go.
All right. So my last guy is the new Cincinnati Bengals quarterback, Joe Burrow. There's just something about this guy that I'm really excited for. 6'4", a little over 215 pounds, incredibly accurate, super high football IQ. His areas of opportunity, is, if you buy into the size of hands garbage that they talked about at the combine, but also his arm strength. He doesn't have the greatest arm strength in the world, but last year in college, completed 402 passes, 5,671 yards, and 60 touchdowns. So I know that that's college football, but those are some pretty incredible numbers. He won the Heisman Trophy, he won the national championship, and he was the first overall draft selection. Not much more you can do than that. He is, sorry, I wrote this down here. The average rookie quarterback selected first overall since 2001 has finished as QB 14. The average for the 6 Heisman Trophy winners that have been selected at first overall has been QB 13. That's led by Cam Newton in 2011 was QB 4, and Kyler Murray last year, quarterback 7. So he's also walking into an offense that has a little bit better weapons than the last place team of the previous year typically does. So he's still got Tyler Boyd. There's Tyler Boyd in the slot, who, by the way, Justin Jefferson's player comp was Tyler Boyd. So there's a comparison of how he could be utilized. AJ Green, bit iffy, but if he's right, he's as talented as they come. He's got Joe Mixon, a multi-talented running back coming out of the backfield. They revamped their offensive line. And he has, to a much lesser degree, either John Ross or T. Higgins on the other side. So really jazzed for him. His player comp is Tony Romo. And my player comp for Joe Burrow, which people think I'm nuts, is Andrew Luck. So I'll leave you guys with that.
Go ahead, Jay Will.
Woo! I will say I also had his comparison as Tony Romo, and I feel like that's pretty solid. But you really look at his phenomenal deep ball accuracy, and you have to like that, especially when I know John Ross isn't necessarily the best and the most healthy, but he's a deep threat when he is healthy. AJ Green, obviously, same, and even T. Higgins, if he ever gets the opportunity in this year, if AJ Green does go down again, he's a deep ball guy. So that's something that you have to like. And he is a better athlete, I think, than people give him credit for. I think kind of like Andrew Luck. He can also get it done on the ground, and so he's not going to wow you with his numbers there, but he's definitely, I think he's going to do more than what people expect of him. But he does struggle to throw on the run, which worries me a little bit, because even though, their offensive line should have gotten better, I think he still will be running around. And so that's something that if he improves upon, it took me a while to be sold on Joe Burrow, but I really do like him. I think he's just going to be a solid fantasy quarterback who's just going to be a dependable guy. Rookie season, I think will be bumpy, though, just because of COVID. But I think that second half, again, like a lot of these rookies, that second half, I think you're really going to get a consistent guy who knows the offense, who has that chemistry with his guys. But it's going to take some time, so I wouldn't expect him to be a stud right off the bat.
Cool. Bryce?
Yeah. So I'll talk about his ADP first. He's at 140, below guys like Tony Pollard, Adrian Peterson. So he's being drafted as a backup quarterback, and I think that's a steal because he has the upside of obviously a quarterback one just in season one with all the talent around him, especially if AJ Green can stay healthy. That's a big part of that. But, as an Ohio State fan, I'm sure you watched the college football playoffs, Jacob, and us getting beat by Clemson saved the embarrassment because Joe Burrow would have ripped the Buckeyes apart. That man is insane. He was so entertaining to watch in the playoffs. He's so accurate even when he's scrambling and running for his life. If you ask people from Cincinnati, he should already be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, he's from Athens, Ohio. People are literally getting excited for him. Joe Kidder thinks he's going to win 2 Super Bowls in his first 4 years. So that's to give you a little bit of perspective on what people think about Joe Burrow. But he is a guy to get excited about. He's in a good situation. He's playing for the team in the same state he grew up in. If you're comparing him to Andrew Luck was my favorite player that wasn't a Patriot when he was in the league. So I'm probably going to love Joe Burrow if he plays anything like Andrew Luck, and especially if he acts like him. So you got to get excited about a solid backup quarterback to buy, especially in redraft. You want to have a good quarterback. So if you're bye week, you have Joe Burrow, and then the potential of him actually being better than whoever the quarterback one you drafted, his ADP is definitely a steal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's quarterback 19 or something like that. So
as of this one, 20. So yeah,
20. So even more value there for me. If Zach Taylor has half a brain, and I'm not 100% sure he does, he's going to ask Joe Burrow for his LSU playbook and make it happen. That's how he's going to combat this COVID and all the other things, right? Because Tyler Boyd easily becomes Justin Jefferson in that offense. Joe Mixon can play the CEH role, and somebody can be on the outside and make something happen. So cool. All right, Bryce, wrap it up with your last guy, bud.
So our last guy, we already touched on him, is Jonathan Taylor. Probably if you're playing a redraft that had one QB redraft, is probably the second most exciting player that people are looking at this upcoming offseason. His ADP is 54. He's under guys like DK Metcalf and his teammate T.Y. Hilton, and the running back above him is David Johnson. So Jonathan Taylor, and he's above guys like Mark Ingram. So I think, again, this is a guy that's probably valued right where I like him, but I also predict that he's going to become the starter a little bit quicker than my friends here, Sully and Jacob. So I think he could be the starter within the first 4 weeks, if not the first couple, if he gets rocking and rolling quick. A lot of times running backs don't have to adjust very much in the NFL. They just get the ball and they run. Usually a lot of their talent is already there when it comes to their agility and their vision. So I think he becomes a starter pretty soon, and I personally like his ADP there. I'm going to draft him over guys like Mark Ingram, who I don't think is going to be a starter for much longer. But I probably wouldn't draft him over David Johnson, who I think is going to have a very solid year for redraft. So, and he's put in a situation where he has a great offensive line, which is extremely important when you're talking about rookie running backs. Sully, what do you think?
I love him. I think he's an absolute beast, right? He's fast as the wind. He's built like a brick house, and he won back-to-back, I think, running back of the year awards. He was over 2,000 yards for the last 2 seasons, and I think he was 3 yards shy of 2,000 as a freshman. So the guy's unbelievable. He had a great career at Wisconsin. He does have that underlying fumbling issue that has been linked to him. That's the only thing that scares me a little bit, because again, there's viable options in that offense. I mentioned if Mac fumbles or misses a block, he's a little bit concerned and worrisome. There's no rush with JT. Like, let Mac play out his rookie deal, bring him along slowly, and he's your guy. When we look at Dobbins, who you sold me on at 98, and I look at JT at 54, do I like Jonathan Taylor almost 4 full rounds better than J.K. Dobbins? I don't know if I do. So I love JT. I love him as a player, and I think he's going to have a great career. In his rookie season with Marlon Mack there, and especially Nyheim Hines, who's going to be involved. We know what Phillip Rivers does with his pass-catching running backs. I like him, and I'm going to pray that he falls a little bit further in my drafts, even though I know he won't. But I'm going to let him slide by at that point. And to your point earlier of David Johnson, I'm going to take him ahead of him pretty comfortably.
Yeah.
JT's player comp is Adrian Foster, which is pretty damn good. So I don't know, man. I struggle with this one. I think he's sort of like in that range of where he should be, but maybe just a tad early. Jacob?
Yeah, I think kind of to your point, I think he is right where I like him. I might even take him over David Johnson. Again, that'd be tough. He's right in that range. But at the same time, I think with Dobbins being 4 rounds later, like me, Dobbins is a no-brainer, where JT's more like, yeah, I would take him there. So I think, yeah, I mean, if I could wait, and get a guy like J.K. Dobbins, and get someone else 4 rounds earlier, then I might do that. But I mean, I just think Jonathan Taylor's a beast, and I mean, he has that 4.9 or 4.39 speed. And I don't know if you've seen a picture of him recently, but the dude is bulked up and he is scary looking.
I think that almost might hurt him in a way.
It could, but at the same time, he's not necessarily known as the best pass blocker too. So I think adding some weight in that sense could help. But
That's
I know
valid.
So, but I also know he's like the perfect combination of speed and size, and so I've seen a lot of Nick Chubb comparisons, and I like that. I think Nick Chubb is extremely talented, and unfortunately has to share with Kareem Hunt right now. But I just think that Jonathan Taylor has that potential of just being a stud, and like we talked about earlier, I think he's a guy who is gonna be that back end of the season, and just like JK has that opportunity to really be a player who helps you get some of those playoff wins.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. All right, buddy, bring us home with your last guy.
Yeah, so my last guy is a guy who I've listened to so many things about him, and I've just really fallen in love with him. But it's Bryan Edwards at the Raiders, and he was one of the purest receivers in his class, and injuries have been a huge thing for him, and that really is like my only red flag with him ever since that he's basically been named a starter without being named a starter, because that was kind of my next thing was I think he'll get his opportunity, but how much? But it looks like they're really leaning towards him being a starter, which I do not, fault them for that, because with a guy like him, I mean, he's just a guy who's has the ability to make any contested catch, and in a team like that, you're going to need that, especially with Carr. And so he's going to be a guy who can bail him out at times too. And one of my favorite notes that I have about him is he'll leaves DBs in press are often left punching the air. And I just like that because, I mean, it just shows, how talented he is. And there have been Michael Thomas comparisons, like not necessarily saying he will be that, but just saying kind of.
Sorry, what?
I'm not saying that, but I've seen those, but more so of kind of like a Mohamed Sanu type player who just has those hands that you can really just count on. But I think he's an immediate impact guy and can really solidify himself. And Bryce, do you know where he's going? ADP?
Like 300. He's going undrafted.
Exactly. And like,
300.
I mean, I think he has maybe like a high wide receiver 3 upside for his rookie year. And if you're getting that undrafted, I'm taking that all day.
Bryce, what do you think of Bryan Edwards?
Well, I had to look him up because I really didn't hear about him because he got overshadowed by, we failed to mention the number 1 wide receiver drafted in Henry Ruggs. But, that whole situation there is so wide open that, why not? Especially like if it's your last pick and you maybe so a lot of people won't even pick a kicker and will pick them right up before the season starts when they're doing redraft or something like that. And you want to maybe draft that guy just in case some last minute news comes out that he's going to be on the field a lot more often. Yeah, why not take a chance on a guy like Bryan Edwards? That receiving core there is so young that any player can step up and be the number 1 there. So, I mean, for 303, I'm probably going to pass on him unless I hear some news. But you put him on my radar today, so I guess you might put him on some other people's radar. So, you think, Sully?
Cool. I've been poo-pooing this guy all off season, and I'm not going to stop now. So, I don't think that he's in a bad spot. To your point, there's a ton of opportunity in that offense. We talked about Josh Jacobs at the top and the competition for pass catchers. So you have the situation where you have him, Lynn Bowden Jr. is there, who's going to be involved in that offense in a multitude of different ways. The Raiders coaching staff has come out and talking about starting Ruggs in the slot to start. So that's not really great for Edwards. Don't forget about Hunter Renfrow, who I
Right.
actually really like,
I like him too.
especially at his ADP. I'm down on Darren Waller, but he's still there. Tyrell Williams is saying that he's finally healthy. I don't know if that means anything. So there's a ton of competition for a team that will trail and will throw the football. So that's probably a good thing. But man, the guy's got injury history, right? Every single year in college, he missed time. He broke his foot prior to the combine and missed the combine. Bad feet scare the hell out of me. We've seen it impact guys not only when they come back, but even the season after that when they come back. So Brian Edwards to me is a project. And at 303 or 306 or 1306, that's where he needs to be right now, especially in redraft. If you want to grab him in Dynasty, I think he was going mid to late second round of Dynasty. Totally fine with that, because again, you could absorb that and keep that guy on your bench. And if he does catch fire, awesome. But keep your eye on him. Like Jacob, Jacob brings him to the forefront and gets us to put him on the radar. Keep your eye on him, and there might be plus matchups, and there might be injuries, and COVID's nuts, and we don't know what's going to happen with guys. He could be a guy off your waiver wire that you're going to want to add, but he's not going to bully DBs in the pros like he did in college, and he's not going to be drafted by me unless it's an incredibly deep redraft league.
Fair enough.
Cool. Michael Thomas. My God.
I'm not saying he. I'm just saying I saw that.
Did his mother tweet that? Like, that's incredible. All right, so we kind of came together here. We got together beforehand. Bryce kind of alluded to we missed Henry Ruggs. There's still a lot. This was a crazy deep rookie class this year. So in the hour that we have, we're not going to get to all of them. But there's one guy we kind of missed, and we kind of came together as a team and decided that our founder Rick Butts is really high on this guy, and he might fire us and kick us off the stream if we don't have this guy. So job security is a good thing. So we are going to discuss the Philadelphia Eagles' first selection and first wide receiver selected in the 2020 NFL draft, and that's Jalen Reagor out of TCU. So, J-Wall, you said you were upset when they took Justin Jefferson, or they didn't take Justin Jefferson, pardon me. What do you like about Jefferson that you would have preferred him over Reagor? Or do you like Reagor? Let's put it that way.
I've just been very up and down with him. He's a guy who struggles to go up and get it and make those catches in those tight windows. And he does make those easy catches, which is nice because it means, he's not thinking too much. And he's also a guy with a quick twitch. So he creates that separation, which allows that those easy catches. But at the same time, it's going to be different in the NFL. And I've seen, he's a great return man, and he's obviously dynamic after the catch, just because he's so quick, kind of like what I was saying, so twitchy, that he just, can make something out of nothing when he has the ball in his hand. So that's the good thing. But I've just seen a lot of comparisons to like Brandon Cooks and like a faster Sterling Shepard. I don't know if I necessarily buy into the Cooks. I think I would see more of a faster Sterling Shepard, but I don't know. I'm not a guy who is in love with him, but I think he has the potential to be someone who could be a dog for the Eagles, and I'm hoping.
Yeah, well, there's opportunity, right? Philly is a bit of a mess at wide receiver. Alshon looks like he's destined for the PUP list. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside did not necessarily come to fruition last year. I think he was targeted 22 times and was probably forced onto the field more than the Eagles would have wanted him to due to the injuries that they had in that offense. Deshaun Jackson is a burner, and he's still flies at his age, and he's going to be. Greg Ward, I believe it is, the transition quarterback. I think the Eagles came out today and said that he's still involved in the offense. That scares the hell out of me if I'm an Eagles fan. And you have two legit tight ends, both top 12 tight ends, fantasy tight ends last year, and Ertz and Goddard, who I think are incredibly involved in that offense. Reagor is a tough guy to read. He had absolutely horrific quarterback play at TCU. 2 years ago, he was a 1,000-yard receiver with 9 touchdowns. Last year, I think he caught 40 passes, 611 yards, and he scored twice. So is that on him? Is that on the quarterback? I'm going to put it more on the system and the quarterback. Like you said, his speed is off the charts, but I think he's a home run hitter at this point in his career. He needs to develop as a route runner. His hands need to get a little bit better. Again, he's another one of these guys. I'm like a broken record. Nice dynasty asset, been in redraft at 100, even at 130. Like when I'm comparing him to Jefferson 4 picks later, it's not a comparison. I just think that the opportunity with the differences in roles, I'll take Jefferson over Rieger 100 times out of 100. Bryce, what do you think?
Let me ask you, were you mad that the Cowboys took CeeDee Lamb? Yeah, well.
Oh,
It seemed like they took him. Seemed like they took him to get the Eagles, right?
yes.
That's what a lot of people thought. And then they passed on Jefferson and took Rieger. I mean, Rieger's getting all that hype because then he put that video of him catching that OBJ like catch. Didn't he do that on like Twitter or something like that?
Yeah.
I wonder when, say your wide receiving staff is healthy, except Jeffrey, who looks like he's going to be on the pup. Who is your number one? Is it Rieger?
Are you talking about for the Eagles?
Yeah, like say who do you think a team is going to put their best cornerback on? Rieger, you would think, right? Because I mean, Deshaun Jackson's just really a deep ball threat.
Yeah, but again, Deshaun's proven too.
Right.
So I think that's where if Alshon's on the field, it's going to be Alshon.
Yeah, that's obvious.
I'm
curious to think who.
But I think
who's going to get the targets.
Yeah, you're gonna get Jackson just because of the fact that he's proven over and over again when he's healthy.
Yeah,
he's
hope, right? See, it's just like a lot of times confidence takes a big toll on these players when they're young, and if Rieger gets locked down by whoever that team's number one cornerback is, that's gonna be tough. Going from college corners to an NFL corner, so I hope that he does not get put in a situation where he's the number one right away and his confidence gets shot by not getting, production out of his targets. So that's the only thing I worry about with Rieger. So like Sully said, there's so many other rookies that are in close spots that are in better situations. I think Rieger just comes into a situation where he could be almost set out there to fail, especially if he's the number one target. Deshaun Jackson's old and he's a proven receiver, and when he's healthy, he's super hit or miss. But I'm probably not going to touch Rieger this offseason. I feel bad for Philly because the Dallas Cowboys definitely took CeeDee Lamb to basically smack you in the face. So
didn't the Eagles take Dallas Goedert when the Cowboys looked like they were going to take him a couple of years back, and kind of the story was that's what sort of started the fuel. Obviously, they're divisional rivals, but there was talk that the Cowboys were zeroing in on Goddard, and the Eagles took him, I think, a couple of picks ahead. So I think you make an excellent point about who's going to cover or who's the number one target in Philly. And the one thing that, as you were talking, that I started thinking about is what I really like about Rieger and Jackson, if they can both be on the field at the same time, is typically when you got a burner in the offense, you kind of use that safety over the top to help that DB out. You can't necessarily do that if the Eagles just send them both blazing down the field. Carson Wentz is a heck of a good deep ball quarterback. So if he has those two maybe that's just the offense, Ertz and Goddard and Miles Sanders in the middle of the field, and then just home run balls to those two guys. You never know, but who knows, man? It's rookies are a tough thing to gauge, and the best of times. And like we've said numerous times, probably since we started this stream, this is a crazy year and a crazy off season. Mm-hmm. We don't know what's going to happen. So we got some questions. Bryce, do you mind looking at Facebook for me? I struggle to do one thing, let alone two. So we got a question from Alex on YouTube. And first of all, Alex, thank you for watching the stream. We appreciate it. His question is, will Juju bounce back this year? What do you think, Bryce?
Well, yeah, because his year was so horrible, but I don't think he'll go back to where he was when he was the number two. And I think we talked about this a little bit earlier. I think somebody had him as their bounce back candidate, and I said the same thing, where I just don't think he's mature enough and old enough yet in his career to be a solid number one option for the team he's on. I think he paired so well with Antonio Brown, or even if they somehow brought in another great wide receiver, which they're which rarely happens to organizations. I just don't think he's suited for that wide receiver 1 spot. And I think he becomes, I didn't project him to do as bad as he did last year, but I think he's going to be like a mid wide receiver 2 for this upcoming season. And to a high end wide receiver 2. And I'll keep saying it until he proves me otherwise. What do you think, Jacob?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think I was really like anti-Juju for a long time, but then there's been a lot of talk about having him in the slot. And I think if he's in the slot, I think that helps his chances of putting up numbers immensely. And I'm a believer in like the, kind of like that 13 range, like right outside of that wide receiver 1, and kind of that area versus if he plays on the outside, he's not a wide receiver 1. Like he doesn't have that in him yet. Maybe he could grow into it. I genuinely think
he's only like 22. So
yeah, exactly.
I think he's 23 now.
Yeah. He just turned it or something, right? So
yeah, somehow that he's entering his 4th season at the age of 23, which is insane.
Yeah.
To Bryce's point, yeah, he's a bounce back. I think he was wide receiver 65 or something crazy like that last year. I just redid my wide receiver rankings for Redraft. Another plug. You can also read that on rotoheat.com. So I got him at 12. And he's the guy that I've struggled with probably the most ranking all offseason. To Jay Wall's point, it does sound like they're going to bring him back inside, and they're going to have Deontay Johnson, who I'm really high on one side. And it looks like it's going to be either Chase Claypool, another rookie that we didn't talk about today, or James Washington on the other side. Moving Juju back into the middle is huge, but his quarterback's coming back as well, which I think is a massive thing for him. The quarterback duo that he had last year was arguably statistically the worst quarterback play in the NFL. So the Steelers had a really rough year offensively. I think they bounced back in a big way at all positions. That includes James Conner. So my answer, Alex, would be yes, he does. Bryce, what's our Facebook question?
So Patrick Davis asks, when do you think Justin Herbert will get a chance to start? You want to go ahead, Sully, on that?
Yeah, I'll be really quick on this. 2021. I've projected Tyrod to play all 16 games. I think the Chargers have a pretty straightforward and easy schedule for the most part, and they're going to run the ball a lot. They're going to lean on that defense, and I think Tyrod, as long as he stays healthy, it's a redshirt year for Justin Herbert, in my opinion. Jay?
I think if anything, he gets in the mix around like week 14. Their season's already trashed, just to kind of give them some. But even then, I'm with Sully. I think week 14 is like best case scenario, but I'm not drafting him in redraft, and I'm not planning on streaming him either. So,
right. I pretty much agree. I feel like the only people that would say otherwise are like, well, Tyrod Taylor went to the Browns and Baker Mayfield became the starter, but the Browns organization is just such a dumpster fire and didn't even use Tyrod Taylor to his strengths, that they pretty much set him up to fail where Baker Mayfield could take over. So I don't see that happening again. I think Tyrod Taylor is a decent player when he's on the field. He's not going to get your organization to where they want to be, but you don't want to throw a quarterback that you drafted that early into a season for them to fail. And again, like I said, confidence is a big issue. So you want to make sure that they get the system down and they got it down pat before you throw them in. And I think, Jay, Wall, you pointed best. If their season's trashed at that point, they could throw him in for like the last 2 to 3 weeks just to get him to see what he's made of. And I think that even if he does bad, his confidence won't take a big hit because he knows why he's in there at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Cool. Awesome. I agree. All right. So that kind of wraps it up. I apologize if I missed any questions over on YouTube. The chat was lit tonight. It was great. It was a lot of trash talk and a lot of fun that I'll enjoy going back and reading later on. But sincerely appreciate you all being there. Like I said earlier, please like and subscribe. Click that notification bell over on YouTube. We are running a contest. Rick Butts is running a contest. He's giving away either an Xbox or a PlayStation copy of Madden once we hit 1,000 subscribers. And if you're not into playing Madden, your option is a $100 Fan Addicts gift card. So pretty cool prizes. All you got to do is like subscribe, click the notification bell, and send a screenshot over to Rick. And if you look at the comments on YouTube this evening, Rick has posted those in the contest in the comments. He's also posted the link to the Discord chat that Bryce alluded to earlier on. Facebook was active today as well. Sincerely appreciate you guys all being here. Like I said, like and subscribe if this is your podcast. Please do that as well. One last time, Mr. J Wall. First of all, thanks again for being here, and thanks again for your content on rotoheat.com. Where do we find you, man? And what do you got in the hopper? What's your next article coming out?
Yeah, so Facebook, you can find me there in both communities, Redraft and Dynasty. And then you can also find me in the Discord. And then what I got coming up is I got Trade Negotiations 102, the COVID-19 edition. And I'll probably be doing that with my guy, Adam. Also, shout out to him for making my articles probably sound smarter than they are. But then the other one by request is Julian Edelman. So kind of looking at what his fantasy outlook will look like post Tom Brady.
Yeah, and that's a dynasty outlook, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, sun is setting there. And Bryce, once again, what do you got going on?
You can find me on the Facebook, both Dynasty and the Redraft pages. I'm usually putting in a little few posts here and there. Made a bold prediction on there earlier, and then I'm always
Michelle bold position.
Yeah, it's not, which isn't looking too good if he sits out.
That's okay.
But maybe I'll just change it to him averaging the most per game or something. But I'm always chiming in on posts here and there, giving out opinions. Same in the Discord. Join, guys. You can always put out some opinions or things that you're coming up with, and get opinions on that from other guys that do this every day, all day. So these are the ways you can reach me.
Awesome. And like I said at the top, you can find me on Twitter at RotoHeatSully, in both the Facebook groups and on Discord as well. Putting out a bit of content over on rotoheat.com, like I alluded to before. I just redid all of the skilled position rankings. And if you prefer that information in a podcast, my solo podcast, Sully's 2 Cents Fantasy Football Podcast, has almost been dropping daily lately, as I've been trying to pump those out before we start the season. What do I got going on next? I think I have. Well, I don't even know what I'm doing right now. I got some stuff coming, and for this podcast, I ran the numbers of all the players drafted from 2010 to 2019, and I think I've fallen into another series of articles coming here. And I'll give you a sneak peek behind the curtain. There were 779 players drafted, skilled positional players drafted from 2010 to 2019. 85 of them were fantasy relevant as a rookie. So when we talk about rookies in redraft and not so sure we want to take them here or there at that ADP, there's a reason for that, because most of them are not relevant in their rookie season. 10% are going to make an impact. And the fun part is finding which one of those are in the 10%. So with that, I will wrap this up. And for Bryce and Jacob, once again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We're going to be back next week, and I would be lying to you if I told you what our topic was off the top of my head. I believe we're going to do our rookie mock draft next week, so that one's looking like it's going to be a lot of fun. But since you're all going to like and subscribe and click the notification bell and you watch us 5 nights a week, we will see you all next Wednesday. Thanks, everyone.
Don't forget, make sure you hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss any more fantasy football content from the rotoheat.com team. Also, right there, playlist. Hit it. Watch the videos. Do it.